So, is pop culture in a slump? It's a really big question, right? And today we're going to break down a pretty sharp critique of modern music, movies, and the whole celebrity culture scene. We're going to unpack an argument that actually starts with just one single event, but spirals out into this huge statement about where we are today. And it all starts right here with this one quote. To really get this entire critique, you have to understand that, from this perspective, the 2026 Grammy Awards weren't just a bad TV show. No, they were seen as a symptom of a much, much bigger problem. It was like a single moment that perfectly captured everything this viewpoint thinks is wrong with the industry right now.
Okay, so let's dig into that. This first part is all about the Grammys because this whole argument uses the ceremony as like Exhibit A in its case against modern pop culture. The night is seen as this perfect reflection of a creative and cultural void.
What's really interesting are the specific things this perspective latches onto. It points to Cher's award presentation, calling it just chaotic. And more than that, it claims the whole vibe of the night was just off, even suggesting the artist seemed out of it. So for this critique, this wasn't just some awkward award show. It was the perfect symbol of an industry that's kind of a mess. And this is where the argument really blows up, right? It goes from one night at one award show to a critique of an entire era. The focus gets way broader, looking at the messages and the big names that this viewpoint believes really define our current cultural moment. And it uses one artist's speech as a major focal point. And this is the statement that gets put under the microscope. During the Grammys, Billie Eilish made this declaration. From this perspective, this wasn't just a political statement. It was seen as a prime example of what it considers to be simplistic, maybe even hypocritical, celebrity sloganeering. So a pretty detailed counter-argument is then laid out. First, it points out that Eilish's own mansion is supposedly on land claimed by a specific tribe. Then it tries to complicate that whole stolen land narrative by arguing that, history is just a long series of conquests, noting that the tribe claiming the land had conquered other tribes before them, and that they were even earlier people on the continent. And the final point is a logical jump. If no one is illegal on stolen land, then by that exact same logic, no one should be kept out of her highly guarded home. And all of this brings us to the ultimate verdict on modern music from this point of view. The argument is that the art form itself has just degraded to nothingness. It uses some pretty blunt terms to describe a lot of current music, and suggests that it's been pushed aside from being a driving cultural force to just being, background noise. So if today's music is nothingness, what's the other side of that coin? What are we comparing it to? Well, this next section is all about that contrast. We're going to look back at an era when, in this view, music was the undisputed king of culture, and artists were seen as genuine geniuses. This slide really just lays the whole argument out, doesn't it? On one side, you have the present, described with these really harsh terms, and on the other, you have the past, where music was supposedly the highest art form, this incredible unifying force led by figures of musical genius. The suggestion here is that we've lost not just quality, but real cultural meaning. And Michael Jackson is held up as the ultimate example of this past glory. He's called a musical genius who, and this is a key point, wrote his own stuff. But even more than that, his music is remembered as something that actually brought people together. The premiere of the Thriller video on MTV, that's pointed to as the exact kind of massive shared cultural event that this perspective believes just doesn't happen anymore. And hey, it wasn't just pop music. The argument also points to Prince. This quote is used to capture that raw, electric, unbelievable artistry of the period, an energy that this viewpoint feels is just totally missing today. All right, so if culture really has declined so sharply, the billion-dollar question is why? What happened? This last section digs into the why. The argument here is that this isn't just about personal taste. It's about a fundamental shift in the media landscape and the business models that are now driving everything we see and hear. And here's a huge piece of that puzzle. This perspective really mourns the loss of the shared cultural event. Back in the day, you might wait all night for that huge new movie trailer to drop during the Super Bowl. Now, those moments are basically gone, replaced by companies just dropping trailers directly onto YouTube whenever they feel like it, which just shatters the audience into a million little pieces. So why do they do it? It really comes down to the new rules of the game. On a platform like YouTube, it's not just about how many people click play, it's about how long they watch. Minutes watched. That's the metric that rules the algorithm and at the end of the day brings in the money. And look, if you need proof, just look at this number, 62 million views for a single Disney trailer. When you take a massive view count like that, and you combine it with that minutes watched metric, the business logic becomes crystal clear. It's way more profitable for a studio to release stuff on its own channel, where it controls everything, than to pay a fortune for a 30-second ad during a live event.
But according to this critique, this whole new system has an artistic cost, and it goes beyond music. It hits film, too. It contrasts a movie like Close Encounters, which it says was just filled with wonder, with a lot of modern trailers that can look too digital and weird, and just fail to spark that same sense of awe. So this brings us to the final question that's hanging over this entire critique. From chaotic awards shows to shared cultural moments being replaced by monetized YouTube drops, this perspective paints a pretty bleak picture. It argues we've traded artistry and this amazing communal experience for just an endless stream of on-demand content. And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. Has it all come at the cost of our sense of wonder?